You're listening to the Weekend Sport Podcast with Jason Pine from News Talk ZB. A new coach.
We've picked players that we believe that can play a style that we want for the All Blacks to win in 2024.
A new captain.
That's how I want to lead from the front and the top five, and I guess let my actions on the park do the talking.
A new team.
Is it largely what you expected? What are the big surprises, and who is unluckiest to miss out?
Live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024, it's Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Kia ora, good afternoon and welcome into a very special edition of Weekend Sport on News Talk ZB. We're broadcasting live from the New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport in Upper Hutt. I've got goosebumps listening to that intro. It's been home to the All Blacks since Wednesday and will be until this Tuesday as they gather for the first time in 2024 ahead of a 14-test season starting a week tonight in Dunedin. After one, we'll be joined by All Blacks head coach Scott Robertson, who's added us to his incredibly busy schedule, is going to be with us for most of the hour between 1 and 2. I have got a bunch of questions. I know you will have as well. You can start sending them through if you like. 9292 is our text line, or take your chances on the phone after 1 o'clock when Scott Robertson joins me in our purpose-built studio here at the New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport. I'm Jason Pine. Show producer today is Mark Kelly. It is June 29. So Razor with us between 1 and 2. We've got some All Blacks players sprinkled throughout the show as well. Vice Captain Geordie Barrett, the returning Bowden Barrett, new cap Billy Proctor, and the heir apparent to the number 7 jersey, Dalton Papali'i, is on the show too. We'll also find out more about this world-class facility, the New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport, when General Manager Jamie Tout joins us just after 2. Currently set up in his office, actually, and it is prime position here at the NZCIS, looking out onto what they call the green room, and the green room is a full-size indoor training pitch. It's just been used by the All Blacks this morning, as I understand it, although I wasn't allowed to watch that. I think they want to keep prying eyes away. But it's just part of this world-class facility, just globally leading edge as far as training for sports teams are concerned. And I know the All Blacks are going to take the opportunity to soak it all up. The Hurricanes and the Phoenix have both been resident here over the last 6 months to a year or so, and it's certainly helped in their respective seasons. Let's hope the All Blacks get a similar boost in their performance from being here at the NZCIS. Other matters around today. I want to start with the Warriors. Pretty important game for them this afternoon against the Broncos as they look to bounce back from their 66-6 defeat to the Titans last weekend. Going to kick that around very shortly with Fox NRL commentator Matt Russell. Also wanted to get your views on the social media abuse suffered by and called out this week by Sean Johnson. The T20 Cricket World Cup final tomorrow morning. The grade cricketer have been on their American tour over the last 6 to 8 weeks. They're joining us this hour. And the Tour de France underway tonight. Tour commentator Anthony McCrossan previews that for us after 2 o'clock as well. Your feedback and interaction, the lifeblood of this show. Please join us if you if you feel like you'd like to. 0800 80 1080 on the phone, 9292 via text, or emails into me, Jason, at newstalkzb.co.nz. Just gone 10 past midday.
ZB.
Last Saturday, one of the darkest days in Warriors history, a 66-6 thumping at the hands of the Gold Coast Titans, the equal biggest losing margin in club history to the club that was at that time bottom of the NRL ladder. Comfortably the worst performance of coach Andrew Webster's time at the club, and it's put the Warriors' top 8 hopes in serious doubt, not so much because of table position, but the belief now among fans and possibly the players too that they are still a genuine title contender, which many hope they would be after last year's excellent showing. Warriors back at home to face the Broncos at Mount Smart this afternoon from 5 in what is shaping as a key test of their ability to bounce back from a defeat of that nature. Great pleasure to welcome into Weekend Sport NRL commentator out of Fox Sports, Matt Russell, who was behind the mic last weekend for the Warriors-Titans game. Matt, how big a surprise was the margin of defeat for the Warriors, first of all?
I think surprise sells it short. Good morning and hello to all your listeners. Yes, it was 66-6. Now, if you told me pre-kickoff that one of the teams would win by 60 points, I would have said in a instant. Well, that'll be the Warriors. They've got more attack. They've got more promise this season. But to see them go down 66-6, it was not a surprise. It was stunning. And I'm still stunned by it. The lack of physicality from the outset from the Warriors, who attracted a huge crowd, a huge support base to the Gold Coast. They'd been there for an extended period, feeding on the support that exists in southern Queensland for them. Really, everything pointed to a Warriors win, yet it was anything but, and by a big margin. As I said off the top, I was stunned by it. But equally, I expect a response this afternoon. So as stunning as that collapse was, I'm actually tipping the Warriors to bounce back this evening and beat Brisbane. Now, that might seem strange. It sounds ludicrous, doesn't it, that you can be beaten by 60 points one week, run into a top 8 opponent the following week, and have you being tipped as the winners. They're actually the favourites in the eyes of the Australian bookies, and that's because I suppose that we all expect this rebound from the Warriors. What about you, faithful in New Zealand? How are you seeing it?
I love it when you turn questions back on us. I can tell you, man, I think what the Warriors have done is built enough credit in the bank as far as their fans are concerned for Warriors fans and others interested in the game of rugby league to have that faith that you've talked about that they will bounce back. What are the keys that you'll need to see this afternoon if you're a Warriors fan or a casual observer like you are or a rugby league analyst to know that they have put that behind them and they are now moving forward, without that, as a weight on their shoulders?
First, second, and third, physicality. I want to see them drilling the Broncos. I want to see them welcoming the contact, really ready to roll up their sleeves, figuratively speaking, and getting stuck into the Broncos because they weren't there physically last week. Their defence was the poorest I can remember seeing from a Warriors team, in fact, an NRL team. They were just letting the Gold Coast Titans run through them, run around them, run over them. So physicality first. I want to see Aden Fanua-Blake get back to his best, where Stephen Blocker wrote, one of my colleagues at Fox League, a 3-time Dally M Prop of the Year, says that Aden Fanua-Blake at his best is the best prop in the world. Well, show us today, Aden. I want to see Tamare Martin, Chanel Harris-Tavita back in the halves together, just control this team and direct them around supremely. And I want to see that back three that is so good, starting the sets on the front foot, racking up the metres, showing plenty of physicality with ball in hand as they open the set with the first few carries. So there are a few things that I'm looking for. If I see all that and they don't win today, then I think, okay, well, the Warriors, they've fixed it. They're back in the hunt. They've got some work to do, but at least there were good signs there. I think if they do all that I've just said, that they'll actually beat Brisbane, because Brisbane, controversially back here in Australia, are resting their origin stars. Now, they are equally desperate as the Warriors. At 7-7, after 3 straight losses, if the Broncos are beaten by the Warriors, then they'll slip outside the top 8. Now, as a league powerhouse, as a team that people just expect to be there at the pointy end of the season, their fans don't tolerate the Broncos not being inside the top 8. So while it's a big game for the Warriors, equally so for the Broncos, I think this is a captivating game to start Super Saturday on Fox League at Sky Sport in New Zealand. I'm really looking forward to watching it.
So are we. Andrew Webster has resisted the temptation, Matt, to make wholesale changes. In fact, 13 of the 17 will back up again today. Did you expect him to make more changes?
No, I didn't, because I think when you have a loss like that, you give those players who you've had faith in all season the chance to make good. You put it back on them and say, okay, well, I'm keeping the faith in you. You return that to me by improving dramatically after last week. As soon as the game was done last week, we went to the media conference. I thought Tohu Harris and Andrew Webster owned the result. They didn't look to make excuses. Andrew Webster called his team soft, lacking physicality. He basically called it as he saw it, straight shooter. But as soon as we left the media conference, my commentary team, myself, Steve Roach, Lara Pitt was sidelined, Corey Parker, we all said he'll stick with the same 17 as much as he can to give them the chance to return the faith, to make good next week. So Sean Johnson's not there because of that Achilles injury, obviously. I'll come back to Sean in a moment. He finished with a tight hamstring anyway, so there are a couple of concerns for Sean. We know that Capewell and Barnett come back in after Origin, so there are a couple of really good players who should stiffen up the middle of the field for the Warriors. So no, I wasn't expecting any more changes than that. And, you know, there were individuals picked out last week by the media in the conference, the likes of Adam, the likes of Sean Johnson, and Andrew Webster, I thought, handled it really well. He said we were all so bad that no one could then play any sort of role, that no one could get on the front foot because everyone around them was equally bad. So they sort of shared the blame, and I think as a group, they'll now look to bounce back. Of course, there's been the obligatory crisis meeting during the week we hear about where they sit down and the only thing on the agenda is what happened last week, how do we make good this week, is this a turning point in our season? We either go two ways from here. We crash and burn, and the critics in Australia who are saying our success last year was just an aberration, the old Warriors are back, we feed them, or else we win next weekend against the Broncos, we start the upward trajectory, and we prove the powerhouse that is the Wars last season can be again this year and can be for decades going forward.
Let's talk about Sean Johnson, a powerhouse that helped to drive the powerhouse last year in terms of the Warriors' excellent 2023. How do you assess his ability to recapture that form once he is 100% fit?
Well, facts and physicality suggest it's going to be hard, right? Because Sean is in the back end of his season. He finished last week with a tight hamstring. We had shots of the ice on the hamstring. We hear this week he's picked up an Achilles problem, which has been an ongoing issue for him. And the years are ticking by. There's a question mark. Is he going to play on next year? Where is the end of the road for Sean? But at the same time, if I'm being optimistic, and I want to be optimistic about Sean, because I've loved calling him, I've loved watching him play. He hasn't been perfect all the way in terms of consistency and form, but I, as a rugby league caller, consumer, fan, I've enjoyed following the career of Sean Johnson. And last year, a career-high 32 try assists. He was 1 point off Kalen Ponga in winning the Dally M Player of the Year. Had he played that final round, maybe he picks up points. Maybe he wins the Dally M. And that's recently in the rearview mirror. That's last year. So if he can do it last year, why can't he do it this year when he gets back? I'm not going to be one of the people who piles on and joins the outrage. I want to go the other way. I want to back Sean to get back from injuries, back into a winning team, and drive this club towards finals because, you know, he was there when you guys made the grand final last. I want him to be there again when the Warriors make a grand final because it's good for rugby league in New Zealand. It's good for rugby league in Australia if the Warriors are doing well. I really believe that. And I want the New Zealand club to fire again.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. How big a test is this for Andrew Webster and his coaching ability?
Yeah, a big test. He's had a long and decorated background as an assistant coach in many roles at various clubs. And last year, he's the coach of the year in a fairy tale first year. But, you know, they say you're not really a head coach until you've lost 4 and 5 games in a row. Now, the Warriors haven't done that, but they are certainly in a hole after 66-6. And he will, I hope, I'm sure he does. I don't know Andrew really well, but I've been lucky enough to deal with him multiple times in my Fox Sports capacity. I've enjoyed my interaction with him every time. I'm a fan of Andrew Webster. So if I know him in any way, I reckon that he is celebrating the challenge that he's now presented with and saying, well, this will help me be a better coach in the long term and hopefully a long-term successful coach at the Warriors. So, of course, he's not happy at 66-0 last week. He's not happy with the fact that they are now 6 wins, 1 draw, 8 losses this season after the hype that came because of last year. But at the same time, if he can handle the challenge, if they can get over this, then he'll be a better man, a better coach going forward. So, yes, it's a key moment, but I back him to handle it.
And just a word on the Broncos. You mentioned the players they've left behind. They've lost their last 3. Still a dangerous opponent, though. They're the Brisbane Broncos after all. What do you expect from them this afternoon?
Yeah, they're missing their origin stars. They're missing Jordan Ricky. But with players out, there are opportunities for others. So, you know, there are blokes there who think, well, I can stake a claim here this evening, for permanent more game time at the Broncos. So while the big guns are out, the next in line are going to try and seize the opportunity. I told you off the outset, I expect the Warriors to win. I'm tipping the Warriors to bounce back and win against an undermanned Brisbane Broncos. But unless the Warriors are 100% dialed in, then the Broncos are capable of causing an upset. They've been a top 8 team for the majority of the season. They are equally desperate. They have critics like the Warriors right now, sitting just on the edge of the 8 at 7-7. If they wake up on Monday morning having been beaten by the Warriors, maybe even well beaten by the Warriors, and all of a sudden outside the top 8, then the critics are going to come for them as well. From Kevin Walters down, so be careful, Warriors. Be very, very careful, because the Broncos are in town, and if you think you're desperate, well, look at the opposition. You might see some anxious faces on them as well. So be careful. Be very careful.
Oh, brilliant. Matt, just to finish, I know this might be a bit simplistic, but are we headed for a Storm Panthers grand final?
It looks that way, doesn't it? Because the Storm, ultra consistent under Craig Bellamy. I keep looking at their roster, and without Cameron Munster, thinking, how are they continuing to rack up these wins? How are they sitting on top of the table? They just have this happy knack of being able to stay in the hunt as other things go against them. Now, I know that in the past they've spilt their lollies in recent years during the finals, which is a burning motivator for them. Under Craig Bellamy, Frank Panisi, the powers that be there, they're used to being at the pointy end of the table during the season. They're not used to failing in the finals. So I think their motivation and their focus sharpens during the finals this year, and I think they're going to be hard to toss. Penrith, they're still to get Nathan Cleary back. They're a club that's shown they've got depth anyway, and they're still to get Nathan Cleary back. And they're farewelling Jerome Luai at the end of the season, Tania Taruba. So by then, the bulk of the team that has been there for all 3 premierships will have gone. It's almost like the last dance. So there's a motivating factor. But I will say to you that the Roosters are into the top 4 for the first time this season. They have a great roster. So who knows what they can do. The Sharks, disappointing last night, but another team to play finals and fail there the last couple of years, they'll be keen to get it right. So it looks like Melbourne Penrith. But the good thing about the NRL, if you look at the ladder, see how close it is regarding teams 5 down to 14. Well, it's the same at the sharp end of the table. It is so close. So if you want to lock away your grand finalists now, go and do it. But good luck, because it might not be right come September. It might not be right.
Matt, such a pleasure to chat to you. Thanks for taking the time to join us across New Zealand. Looking forward to a bounce-back performance from the Warriors this afternoon.
No, anytime. A pleasure to talk rugby league with you, and good luck to the Warriors. I hope they are much, much better than last week, and hey, that won't be hard. That won't be hard.
You're right there, Matt. Thanks, mate. Matt Russell there, brilliant NRL commentator out of Fox Sports. You would have heard him calling the game last weekend, and as he said right at the top of the chat, he couldn't believe the 66-6. He said if someone had said before the game somebody's going to win this game by 60, it'd be the Warriors that most people would have put their money on. So, a bit of time to chat, Warriors. 5 o'clock this afternoon, they take on the Broncos at Mount Smart. Going to be sold out again. It actually doesn't matter to Warriors fans, does it? They are now at a point where, regardless of the previous week, they'll still turn up in big numbers this afternoon. And man, do the Warriors need a full Mount Smart this afternoon to get the Broncos heading back across the Tasman with nothing, and to get the Warriors season back on track a little bit. Let's not forget they lost the previous game too to the Melbourne Storm. No disgrace, of course, in that. The Storm are a very good team, but they will be wanting to do everything they can, the Warriors, to make sure that last weekend becomes a distant memory. They play well, bring physicality, as Matt Russell said, and get the 2 points this afternoon in front of their adoring home fans. 12:25. Want to open the lines on the Warriors? 0800 80 10 80. We've got a bit of time to talk some rugby league. I just want to sort of sense or get a sense of your confidence that they will bounce back from this, that it is just an outlier, that there's nothing deeper going on here. And when a team loses by that much, you obviously start to really wonder a little bit about them. But provided they can prove it's an outlier, then I think we're okay, aren't we, Warriors fans? 0800 80 10 80. Keen to hear your thoughts on that, on whether you were surprised that there were very few changes to the Warriors side for this one. As I mentioned to Matt then, only 4 changes. One of them is Dallin Watene-Zelezniak coming back, of course, from the 1-game ban he picked up against the Storm, so he missed the game last weekend. We know Sean Johnson obviously is out with an injury for what we're told will be perhaps as much as 4 weeks. So I actually don't mind, and I know a lot of Warriors fans quite like the Tamati Martin, Chanel Harris Tavita combination. It worked against the Dolphins and it worked against the Cowboys. So they could potentially make it 3 in a line, those two in the 6-7 pivot positions. Other changes, Mitch Barnett, of course, is back. He's been the Warriors' most consistent player, probably, in the eyes of many. So to have him back is an excellent little boost as well for the Warriors. If you've got some thoughts, phone them through or on text 9292. Our number's 0800 80 10 80. Just reminding you, we are broadcasting live from the New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport, home of the All Blacks for the last 3 days and the next 3 days as well before they head to Dunedin for the first test of 2024 a week tonight against England. Scott Robertson, Razor, with us after 1 o'clock for around 45, 50 minutes to take your calls, to answer some of my questions and to break down what the last 3 or 4 days have been like as he's finally got his hands on his All Black squad. But we want to talk some rugby league if you'd like to. 0800 80 10 80 is the number to call. We're back with your calls after this, 12:28 on News Talk ZB.
Live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024 on your home of sport. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
12:30, News Talk ZB and Weekend Sport live from the New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport this afternoon, chatting to Scott Robertson after 1, but talking Warriors right now. How are you feeling about this afternoon, Jim?
Well, g'day, Piney. Well, if we can remember back to when the Warriors played the Broncos in Napier, it was an understrength Broncos side, and they did it. But with the Warriors, I really like Clocksetter at number 6, Tamari Martin number 7, and Roger back at fullback.
Yeah, I know a lot of people share that view. As you know, I'm sure Roger's come back into the centres. Nickel Klukstad is your fullback, and Chanel Harris-Tavita in 6. You'd be tempted to shuffle things even further, Jim?
Yeah, well, that game that Nicole played at 6, he was outstanding. He just kept moving, and he just moved so well with Tamari Martin. They were a real danger. And, of course, Roger running it back from the wing. Fullback.
Yes.
Yeah. But, it'll be a great game. But, of course, Napier last year, the Broncos were under strength, and they beat us.
Yes, I'm hoping for a bounce back, Jim. What is your gut telling you? What is your gut telling you?
I think they will. They've got Barnett back, Capel back. They were just missing it through last week with just bad tackles, So I've got a hopeful feeling that they'll win. But it'll be a really good game.
Good man, Jim. Great to chat to you as always. Let's hope that they do show an ability to bounce back. How do you assess that, Paul? You reckon? Are you on your way to the game?
Finally, yeah, we're on our way, mate. Yep, we're going to try and catch the New South Wales Cup game.
What are you thinking, mate? What are you thinking about the main game, if you like, this afternoon? Do you have a good sense of the bounce back ability of this team?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been this nervous. Well, I haven't been this nervous for quite some time. But if you think, it's not a must-win game for us. But if you look at the Broncos, this could be 4 losses on the trot, and I am surprised that Kevin Walters has rested those Origin players, because I know other Origin players have backed up, like Stephen Crichton last night. So I would have thought, you don't want 4 in a row, so you keep those guys in and maybe get a win and a bit of confidence. But I am surprised. But yeah, I'm confident the boys will do it today. All I want to see is a really good effort, and particularly from Adam Whanua-Blake, who I think he clocks in and clocks out. Maybe he's got 1 foot on the plane, I don't know.
Yeah, I hope that's not true, Paul. I think it's easy for us to assume that when he doesn't play well. And last week, no one played well, did they? But yeah, I think that it just created a really tricky situation. Knowing that he's going at the end of the season has, I think, allowed us to see things that perhaps are there or perhaps are not there. But it's unhelpful, at the very least.
That's right. It just creates speculation, but. I'm really looking forward to the game, mate, and being there amongst the fans. I just think they really need to come out of the blocks like they did against the Cowboys a few weeks ago, and just, this competition, you look at the Tigers, they dusted up the Raiders, the Wooden Spoon Tigers, and you got the Bulldogs last night. So if you're not on your game 100% each time, then you won't win. But can I just say quickly on Sean Johnson on the social media? I would have thought he would have learned. I thought he would have learned from a few years ago. On social media, he always cops it for some reason, and I would have thought that he would have learned a lesson. So Sean, just get off social media because there are trolls out there. Obviously, they want to have a go at you, and take the hint, mate.
Yeah, I don't actually think that he's on it a heck of a lot, Paul. I think, and he said, look, I see your comments. I think what actually happens, having chatted to him about this a couple of years ago, actually, and I put it to him, I said, look, whenever the Warriors lose, it's Sean Johnson's fault in the eyes of many. And he said, look, he stays away from it and takes counsel from those closest to him. But I think it's those closest to him who are saying, probably in an offhand way, hey, mate, you're getting slammed on social.
Well, no, he does cop it, mate, and he's a fantastic guy, and he's a club legend for the Warriors. So, and I do want to see him because he was down here in player last year. You don't go from hero to zero just like that, and it's mainly because of the injuries. But I just hope he has a good season, mate, and doesn't go out. If this is his last season, I hope it's not a doozy for him, mate.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. Drive safe, mate. Give us a yell tomorrow if you get the chance when we're reviewing. Enjoy the doubleheader this afternoon. I know you're a big fan of the team and all the teams in the club. Good to have a chance to chat to you. Chris, how are you feeling?
G'day, mate. What about that game versus the Gold Coast? That was a Kieran Foran masterclass.
Yes, he was very good. He was very good.
The Kiwis number 6. That's what people have really got to focus on. Don't worry about Johnson. He's out. Worry about Kieran Foran. He's the champion. He's the one that led us to 50-0 versus Samoa and 30-0 versus Australia in the Pacific Cup. So Kieran Foran, he's my number 6 for the Kiwis.
Fair enough.
Anyway, about this game, you know what my favourite Warriors team of the year is? Is the team that beat the Panthers. That team of unknowns.
Yeah.
Nobody knows who they were, where they come from, all their moves, and they just beat the Panthers. So, that's my favourite Warriors team of the year. I think the reason that they put these big namers in who aren't on form is because they put bums on seats ultimately. They draw the crowd. But in terms of... I'm
not so sure about that, Chris. I think the crowd would turn up anyway, and I think the Warriors fans are a bit like you. They enjoy watching players who have been given an opportunity, like Tuapiki, like Leatawa that day, Nickel Klukstad in the 6 jumper, and others as well. Given an opportunity, Roach, that was the only game he played or has played all year. And I think the Warriors fans actually quite enjoy watching the unfamiliar names play. I think they'd still come.
Yeah, because Nickel Klukstad, he played number 6 when he played for City Newton way back in the days. That's his original position. Somehow he's ended up floating around in the back line, for whatever reason that is. But his initial position as a kid was number 6. So I'll leave you on that, Bunny. I can't wait for the game. Go the Warriors.
Good man, Chris. Good on you, mate. I think your last sentence sums it up. I think we're all still on the bandwagon. Well, I mean, a couple may have jumped off, but I think we all want the Warriors to win, and I reckon they will. We'll review it tomorrow, no doubt. Whatever happens at 5 o'clock this afternoon or between 5 and 7 at Mount Smart, we'll review it tomorrow. Don't you worry about that. 22 away from 1. When we come back, the grade cricketer. What a social media and online phenomenon it has become. Going to chat to the boys behind it about their success and the T20 Cricket World Cup final.
Getting the behind-the-scenes intel live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024. It's Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
12:41, Scott Robertson Razor with us after 1 o'clock. We just had a massive downpour here in Wellington. I know you'll find that hard to believe, but it's just absolutely bucketed down for about 5 minutes. I thought it was actually the aircon in this office turning on, but no, apparently it was the rain on the roof. Anyway, we'll talk All Blacks with head coach Scott Razor Robertson after 1 o'clock. But the grade cricketer, an online phenomenon. Its satirical take on cricket across the globe has earned them an audience of nearly 1 million on social media. They have an international #1 podcast. They do live tours and have produced 2 best-selling books. They talk about cricket as it really is and should be talked about, I reckon, in a hugely relatable fashion. The brains, the faces, the voices behind it, 2 former Sydney grade cricketers, Sam Perry and Ian Higgins, who have been at the T20 Cricket World Cup in the Caribbean and the United States, mainly on the grade American road trip. They're back. They join us now. How was the road trip, boys?
Oh, thanks, Jason. And just can I start by saying that's a wonderful intro.
That was the best intro we've ever had.
Far too solemn and earnest for anything a white man can take. You know, like I immediately want to make a joke about it, but that was very kind of you. No, we've been in the US, as you said, doing the Great American Road Trip, and it's got to be a shout out to our sponsors, Wise, who got that happening for us, the International Money Transfer app. But yeah, we started in Texas. We saw the first game of USA Canada. We were very skeptical about what we were going to see. Like, Texas is just a place of highways and billboards advertising personal injury lawyers and Jesus. You know, and we went to the rodeo. But it was actually very, very cool. Like, we were skeptical. We saw police in police tanks and sniper rifles and stuff. It was all weird and wrong. But when you saw that South Asian diaspora population have such pride at cricket, their connection to home being played on US soil, which is their new home, it was actually very heartwarming. And we were really pleased to be able to go there. We went to New York and saw India versus Pakistan as well. Same thing again. So, like, it is crazy how much the South Asian population take cricket wherever they go. And we were there to record it all and have fun with it. And thankfully for our business, India beat Pakistan. So our YouTube subscribers went up.
I bet. I mean, the United States is huge, as we know, and they've got their traditional sports, you know, football, baseball, basketball, ice hockey. Did the cricket, you talked about the South Asian population who of course, love it wherever it's played on the globe. But did your everyday Yank get into it?
I would say a couple of rare units got around it. A couple of guys looking for a sort of identity change.
A new identity.
Yeah, a new identity. Yeah. If the Padres hadn't worked out for them, then maybe the cricket team might have done. Yeah, no, look, I think fundamentally that, like, this first World Cup there, they weren't really trying to get that sort of everyday NBC, ESPN, Sports Center crowd. It's not really their target. I think that's definitely a longer term play for them. No question. But at the moment, you actually don't need to, because the audience there's already enough people there who love it. So, no, I don't think it's about to take over, you know, Yankees, Red Sox, but it was still well received. No question about that.
What have you made of I know, you know, the actual standard of the cricket is just one part of what you guys are all about. But what did you make of the cricket, or have you made of it up to the point we've now reached the final? Has it been good cricket for you guys?
That's a deep question and layered question, really. But, like, I mean, to speak of the US, and I don't think it's controversial to say, the pitch in New York brought a lot of teams closer together. It made for some kind of dour, unpredictable cricket as well at the same time, which, you know, probably wasn't really the point of the whole thing being there. But up until now, yeah, it's I think the tournament has demonstrated that those teams who, I'm sorry to get X's and O's on it, but those teams who have good skills around, you know, like low, slow spinning wickets have prospered. You know, Afghanistan's had an inspired World Cup. They knocked Australia out, and deservedly so. India looks pretty much unbeatable. South Africa have a great middle order and 2 really good spinners themselves. So I do think that the tournament, although it's been a strange format where you can kind of, you know, nearly get knocked out by Scotland in England's case, and then, you know, just about nearly make the final. I think it has bubbled up the 2 best teams in those conditions. So, and it's a pretty mouthwatering final. So, yeah. Yeah,
we can talk about that in a moment. But can I ask you guys about the grade cricketer? It's a phenomenon, man. Did you have any idea when you first got your heads together on this how big it would become?
Oh yeah. It's actually why it took us so long.
Taking too long.
What's wrong with everyone? The genius that exists. No, I mean, it's sort of got a bit out of hand, to be honest, Jason. Pezza started on Twitter 12, 13 years ago now.
Long time.
That rolled into our first book in 2015. I think we started our podcast 2016, second book 2017, TV 2017 as well. Started doing YouTube more. Like, one thing has just led to another. Then we started doing stuff on stage in 2018 as well. I think every time we've put our minds to something and like we've really enjoyed it, the audience has sort of tend to come along with us, which is just unbelievably fortunate that we've managed to speak in a way that I think most people tend to find cricket, or their experience of cricket is the same as ours, which is often dark and satirical and traumatic. But that's most people's experience of cricket. So I think we were just lucky, and I think we both had interest in entertainment, so to speak. Before this, we had proper jobs where our dads were happy with us before this, and then we left it for to do some internet jokes. But it's I don't think we could never have predicted that it would end up doing a show on Broadway with Ravi Shastri on stage. It still feels like a dream that's happened. That's not the end. Hopefully there's more to come from us, but no, it's just got out of hand.
Yeah. Tell us,
it got out of hand.
Yeah, look, and in a fantastic way. Tell us about that Broadway show. I mean, were you up there thinking, what is this? We're on Broadway with Ravi Shastri.
No, not at all, Jason. I mean, again, I was disappointed with the theatre size. I thought we could have actually played.
MSG.
Yeah, I was like, where's Madison Square Garden? No, not at all. No, it was very surreal, the idea that two guys like us who really played some middling grade cricket, whose dreams in the game died 10 years before we stopped playing, would one day be, on Broadway talking about cricket in front of 1,000 people. It was, we're really grateful to everybody who's helped make it happen. And there was a lot of goodwill around that show. There was a lot of people in the, Australian expat community there who were like, saying, well, we've got to get to this show. There's obviously, we're really fortunate to have a really, substantial Indian audience who were really happy after India had beaten Pakistan the day before. There's just, following on from Higgos's point, a lot of people like comedy with their sport. And I don't know if there is a lot of it in media, right? So we are filling a gap that's not quite there. There's more people coming into it. We're beneficiaries of the internet. And we even find a lot of the players or ex-players or commentators, they really like to be part of it as well because people like laughs with their sport. That's probably what sport is for a lot of them. So we were lucky in being introduced to Ravi Shastri, who was a guest on the night. He had a great night, and it was a dream come true, really. It's quite surreal, and we're really grateful to have done it and for everyone who helped make it happen.
I think what you do as well, or appears to me anyway, and a lot of humour is based on sarcasm and on giving a bit of jib to people. It seems like you guys put a positive lens on everything that you do. Is that intentional?
Oh, I didn't notice that at all.
Positive.
When Australia beat India in the World Cup, I don't think a lot of Indians thought they were putting a positive slant on it.
but then it goes the other way because when Afghanistan, bowl New Zealand out for 75, they bowl us out for a similar amount. It's like, well, what goes around comes around,
I think there is. We have a very we like to exploit and shine a light on the darkness and brutality of cricket because that is the actual nature of the game. But I think people people will have their own views about us anyway. Not everybody likes us, but I think when people see after a period of time that we're quite equal in the way we give a little bit of lip to every country, that there's probably some affectionate kind of response that we get from that. I mean, we're so glad Australia got knocked out, by the way, because our business booms when Australian cricket's in chaos. So you never know. You just can't actually put a price on how many people want to watch you after Australia's failed. Sandpaper was the best thing that happened to us. For TGC, we've always thanked the boys for that, So, it's really just trying to be as truthful as possible about a lot of people's real experience of cricket, which ultimately is underscored by love for the game, but it also is a love for pain. So that's all we've ever tried to do.
Yeah, incredibly authentic. A spectacular display of willpower too, to wait for 8 minutes before mentioning New Zealand being bowled out for 75 by Afghanistan. I must say, it's especially to a New Zealand audience, that is wonderful stuff from you guys. Just before you go, South Africa, India in the final, two unbeaten teams. As neutrals, who should we want to win?
Oh, I think
who's this going out to?
Yeah. I think the neutrals cheering on South Africa. I mean, I think the pain that they've been through. Now, actually, as I say that, India's been through perhaps even more pain just through the weight of population and the expectation that they are the favourites every single time they go into every tournament, yet never win. I mean, they haven't won anything in 11 years since the Champions Trophy, which for some reason they count. Anyway, I think South Africa would be the neutrals' choice. I think they play a nice brand of cricket. I think they've got very popular players. It's exciting. Their middle order power of Klaasen, Miller, Tristan Stubbs, Aidan Markram. You got Quinton de Kock up top. Kagiso Rabada, one of the best. I mean, there's the very popular, enjoyable cricketers to watch there. That's not to say that Indian players aren't enjoyable to watch at all, but I think that it's nice if South Africa won something for the first time in a long time. I do think that's what most people outside of India would be cheering for.
Incredible. Hey, guys, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I hope you get across to New Zealand at some stage again soon. We'd love to see you. We always enjoy losing to your teams and mixing with your fans. Thanks for joining us across New Zealand today, though. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason.
Mate.
Thanks, guys. That is the grade cricketer here on Weekend Sport. Wonderful stuff. The T20 Cricket World Cup final, 2:30 tomorrow morning, New Zealand time, in Barbados as South Africa take on India. 7 away from 1. Don't forget, Scott Robertson is our guest after 1 o'clock. You can start getting your questions through on 9292, or if you'd like to jump the queue on the phone, you can do that too. 0800 80 10 80. Razor taking your calls and answering a few of my questions after 1 here on News Talk ZB.
Live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024 on your home of sport. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Just on 3.5 away from 1. After the 1 o'clock news, the seat opposite me here at the New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport will be occupied by the man who many say has the most important job in New Zealand. Not the Prime Minister. No, we couldn't get him today. Not that we would have wanted to on Weekend Sport. The All Blacks coach, head coach, Scott Robertson. Finally into the job. He joins us after 1 o'clock for most of the next hour.
New All Blacks coach Scott Robertson taking your calls on 0800 80 1080 on Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Yes, it is. Welcome back into the show. This is Weekend Sport on News Talk ZB, coming to you live from the wonderful New Zealand campus of Innovation and Sport. 7 past 1. I'm Jason Pine. It is a great pleasure to welcome in the man who, as I said before, 1 o'clock, many believe has the biggest job in New Zealand, not the Prime Minister, but the coach of the All Blacks, Scott Robertson, is here. Nice to see you, Razor. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good to be in the hut, and thanks for having me on, Jason.
It's great to have you with us. I've got a bunch of questions. You'll have some as well. 9292 for the text, or 0800 80 10 80. Scott's happy to take some of your calls and questions. You were appointed All Blacks coach on the 21st of March 2023. You finally got your hands on the squad. How were the 466 days in between?
Obviously, had a few games in between that before, my last one down with the Crusaders, and spent the off-season painting, getting all the selection of the staff, the coaching group, management group, finalise how we're going to play, and then had a whole super season to select, and what a season it's been. Some great names been put up through their performances, and over that period of time, that year that you've had, because I've been coaching back to back over a long period of time. It was good just to sit back and reflect and make sure you plan for the biggest year ever. 14 tests, 9 of them away. So it's good to get some players in front of you, though.
I was going to ask that, because how challenging has it been, given the comparison to the last 6-7 years or whatever it's been when you were as the Crusaders coach? You see your players week in, week out. You've got a game on the weekend. How challenging has it been to be patient and wait to get your hands on your team?
Look, because you've got them for a short period of time, you've got that 10 days before you play, you've got all these ideas, you've got all these thoughts, how you're going to beat England, but how do you put it across simply enough so you give them enough, not too much, not too little, that's a fine balance in the art of it. So we've got a lot of experienced players, we've talked to them, we've covered up day by day. We've got to have a check. You've got to get every day right, not just the 10 days. You've got to get every day right. That's the first thing we focus on. How do we own our own areas? And then the connection piece, and we'll talk about NZCIS when we're out here. This is the perfect place to do it.
Yeah, it's a terrific facility. In terms of coming up with your squad, let's talk a little bit about that, the first squad that you picked. Did you come up with a game plan first and then select the players to implement that game plan? Or did you look at the New Zealand elite rugby landscape and say, right, I've got those guys, here's the plan they might be able to implement? Which way around was it?
I think it's a combination of both. To beat the team in front of you, your ability to adapt. If you're going to play really confronting, head-on game, go through teams or go around teams, you've got to be able to do both. And I think that's what we've done over the years, haven't we? Is got a high skill set. We're physical. We can offload and tackle. We can go through. We've got a great set piece. We've got some. A really balanced group. And then it's how you manage the game and who's in front of you. We know that, England style, they're a pressure side. They kick, they try and win the air and the ground on you, and you've got to adapt to that. You might not get many opportunities, or you might get a few, so be ready for both.
How did you come up with your captain?
First thing for me is I look at that as the on-field captain, the captaincy. Are they successful as captain? How hard do they work? Are they respected by the opposition? And obviously I've mentioned before with Scott Scooter, it's easy because there's a few Scots. Scooter is that he's all of those. We've got a great relationship and he's the man.
Yeah. Did you allow him, I think I heard you say, but did you allow him to select his vice captains, or did you have a hand in that as well?
Oh no, for sure. I gave him plenty of time to think about the role, and he talked to Smiley as you do if you're a Barrett.
Yep.
God bless the Barretts, and he went through the process, and he's a deep thinker, and he was. When he came back, he was extremely grateful for the opportunity, humbled and ready to go. The period of time and the captaincy and the success he had with the Crusaders was a great opportunity for him to step up, and where he's at in his age, he's ready.
I feel like if you're asked to be the All Blacks captain, you just say yes straight away. Or is that not the case? Because clearly he went away and thought long and hard about it. Did you ever think he might say no?
No, I just know how he works. I think if you would have said no straight away, that would have been different. Like, he was nodding when I asked him, sorry, and we had the conversation, and he goes, yep. I've just got to talk to a couple of people, and he did. That's just the way it works. People are different, and yeah.
How conscious did you have to be when selecting the team of your association with the Crusaders and making sure that there was no suggestion that you were just picking guys who you had a great knowledge of from your time at the Crusaders? Did that come into your mind at all?
Well, I'm picking the best players. I think that's the key thing. If they're whatever jersey they're wearing, they're the best players for that position in our country. Obviously, there's going to be combinations and experience, but that was my mindset. Pick the best player. We've got a really good balanced squad, and you always have people challenge your thoughts, the way we set it up with our selection and our criteria, with the selection, with the coaching staff doing it. And Smithy had to cast an eye on it when he need to, and we had discussions. So, look, I think it's really, really balanced. And I think if you're a coach and you've coached a team, it's naturally people ask that question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The last coach probably had the same question as the last coach had the same question, so that you're doing your job well.
I guess because I think people just assume, and I'm sure it's the case, that you have got a deeper relationship with guys who you've guided for nearly a decade in black and red. You know what makes them tick. You know what they're capable of. So I guess it would be natural in many ways to say, I know what that guy's about. I'm not quite sure about that guy. If it's a flip of the coin, you take the guy you know, don't you?
Yeah. There's a bit of, I suppose, there's a bit of unconscious bias, or there's a natural bias towards people you know, and you've had success and trust, but it's still got to be earned. Yeah. I think that's the first thing, and so with the squad that we've picked, it's been earned.
And what about guys who you've worked with and had a long relationship with? Yeah. In fact, I'll give you a specific example. David Havili, leaving him out of this squad. Yeah. How difficult a conversation was that?
Just an honest one, really clear. What he needs to do. to get into the squad and why we've done it. So it was simple as that. Look, he appreciates it, but because you're honest with people for a long period of time, you build that trust, and he acknowledged it. He probably hadn't put himself in a position to be in that 4, and there's a couple of players playing great footy, and that's how hard it is with the All Blacks.
Why didn't you select Hoskins Sotutu?
As I've said before, it's important I understand and repeating what I've said before.
That's fine, no, but just pretend it's for the first time.
Look, in Test football, it's very, very physical with the ball and without the ball, and so especially with the loose forwards, it's the ability to influence on both sides. The pressure cycles that you're on, the ability to be tackling for long periods of time. Your work rate off the ball is really, really important. So there's conversations I've had, and we've picked players that we believe can achieve that.
Is it fair to say that Ardie Savea is likely to be the starting number 8, and therefore anybody else in the number 8 position is naturally going to be a bit of a backup anyway?
Well, he's World Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
Good player.
He can play footy.
Yeah.
He's a great influence, great leader. Like he's awesome around the environment. And look, it's highly likely he's going to start in the team. And like what he did at the World Cup, and he's done over the last few years of influence on and off the field is very critical.
Tell us about the brief that you gave to each of your assistant coaches around selection. I spoke to Jason Holland on the radio at the beginning of the week, just after the team was named. He said, I got the midfield backs. Scott Hansen got halfbacks and first fives. You still had the power to veto, though, presumably. Did you? Yeah,
that's why you're the head coach. Like, yep. You hear go if things don't go well, and you get the opportunity to make the calls, and there's going to be always a debate along the way. And look, 95% of them we agreed, and it's like most things. It's those last couple that you go deep on, and then if you have to make a call, you do.
You've got Rugby Championship and then the end of your tour. How many guys you reckon you'll need this year? 40?
Yeah, on average, we looked at the numbers. There's somewhere between sort of 40 maybe to 44 if it's a little bit more difficult. But so there's going to be opportunities. The squad's going to be, we have 3 different squads this year. We're going on an incredible end of the year tour, as you know. And there's an AB's 15 as well, so there's a lot of selections, a lot of opportunities for people to play and get themselves in a black jersey.
How do you assess the depth of actually, I'll give you a couple of positions. Lock. We've lost Sam Whitelock, Brodie Retallick. We almost lost Patrick Tuipulotu, but incredibly his powers of recovery were beyond what any of us imagined. How do you assess our depth at lock forward?
Yeah, it's interesting when you do like 2 in a row, like 2 at the same time. Sorry, the highest quality, and you do look and reflect. And obviously, with Petty coming in 40-odd tests, you've got Scooters on 60-odd, and you've the Josh Lord's been injured through majority of the year. And test locks are big. They're big. They're tall men, or they're extremely mobile. And you look at the Irish second row, just the incredible mobility of it. So. Look, that's one area. And obviously with Petty coming back, made a massive difference for us. But we've got an emerging players program that we tag in. We've looking at them on and off field. We're trying to fast track them as possibly can to make sure they come through and get the size on. They get the aerial skills that are required. A lot of them, tall men take time. They're a little bit longer than others. They can develop late. Sam Darry's in with us. He's same height as Sam Whitelock, got good footwork. He's got a great engine. So him just being in this week and being around an injury recovery is, he'll just grow and he'll come quick.
And by comparison, there seems to be any number of loose forwards you could have chosen.
Yeah.
Your old position. You must love watching all the 6, 7s and 8s running around, are you?
Oh, the quality, the depth, the different skill set, the trademarks they've got, things that they go back to, their strengths, under the heat of the game. And, like Peter Laikai is a prime example. What a season. breakout season for him. Great both sides of the ball. So quick in the line out. His 8, ability to play 7, 8 in 2 positions, and that's a great thing about the loose forward group that we've got here. They all can play 2 positions. Especially if you're going to be on the bench. If you're going to come off the bench, you've got to play a couple or 3. Yeah.
Do you think the days of a lock loose forward utility are gone, or is that still a thing?
Yeah, look, I think Shannon Frizzell was a prime example of that. Sima Penny-Finau can do it, or the other way around. Scooter can go to 6 if required, which he's done many times, just because you're locking stock. So yeah, look, you've still got hybrid players. You've got players who can play in a couple of positions. Look at the South Africans, you can go number 8 and hooker. And I think it's really critical as you get closer to World Cup cycles. You're 33 that you pick, and the versatility and the ability to play 2 or 3 positions will get you in the squad.
You mentioned the World Cup there, and I had that written down. How much of what you do in 2024 is with an eye to the next Rugby World Cup in 2027?
Look, I think the importance of the black jersey is you win and develop. There's a little bit of expectation that comes with it, and I'm well aware of that. And so it's important you win the test match in front of you, but grow people, give them opportunities, get them in combinations, and so they you set them up to succeed over the next 4 years. Try them. Are they test footballers? Can they handle it? The weeks are big, the expectations high, the pressure's high, and we get them ready for it, and then opportunities for them when we find out, and some people surprise you.
What about guys who you aren't sure will make it to 2027? They're in their 30s, and there is some guys in your squad with a lot of experience who is everybody who's been picked this week. Do you think that they'll be eligible or available in 2027, all going well?
Oh, it's a good question. Without going through the 30 odd that we're here off the top of my mind, look, it's amazing how old you can get, with no joint injuries in your career, the longevity you can get after looking after your body, the sports science. The recovery is incredible, and they're playing good rugby. Look at the South African team. They had a lot of older, mature players that had great leadership, and even the last All Black squad that went over, still playing good footy. Dan Cole, look at his contribution on and off the field. So you need them for sure. Look, I can't answer that right now, 4 years out. But I'm sure there are, and there won't be, yeah.
Just a couple more before we take a break. How much of what was so successful for you at the Crusaders is transferable into the All Blacks environment?
Well, the culture and leadership stuff, and on-field coaching, that's how I sort of break it up, those 3 areas. You've got to get your game right, along with your leadership, how do they drive the team on and off the field, and then also the cultural bit. What's your identity, who you are, what are you playing for, what do you care about, and your roles and responsibilities, and then that comes with the cultural, the people side of it. So a lot of that transference comes along, and it's a black jersey. We're taking it to a whole country now. We've got a great responsibility that we've been given by our ancestors and the people that have played in our jersey before, and all the fans that have been with us along the way, so it's just a lot bigger.
If I'm just trying to think of the right way to ask this question, but if someone looked down from above and wasn't able to see whether you were the Crusaders coach or the All Blacks coach, would they notice a difference? Do you think you'll be different in an All Blacks environment than you were in the Crusaders environment?
What do you think?
Well, I think you probably will be. I'm interested to know how, though.
Look, I'm still the same person. I'm not going to. The energy I bring every day and the enjoyment of it, and we just had a couple of hours training, and I'm walking around observing, chipping in when I need to, giving a little bit of feedback to the coaches, to just using my eye. But because of the breadth and width of it, the on-field and off-field stuff, we've got a commercial manager now and a rugby manager. we've got 2 CEOs in our organisation. There's a couple of hundred staff, so it's bigger. To give you context, I don't know, 5, 7 lawyers. It's big. So you need incredible coaching group around you and incredible management, and they have to be world leading. They truly do. So, I do my thing, but you have to give ownership and trust to so many people to go and own their role and make the players, or get the players prepared for, to be the best they can.
Last question before the break is around how big it is and how little time you have. How do you work out the best use of each day and each hour? I mean, you've given us an hour. This is incredible. I know you're so busy. But how do you work out the best use of every hour in your day?
Look, you've got to have time for people. That's number one. And you've got to get your planning done early. And then it's getting time in front, eyes on eyes, around the opportunities when you're eating, the connection piece on and off, being a step ahead looking, not what that day is, but the next week is, and a couple of weeks. When you start getting into the NPC and you've got guys playing, you're looking at the schedule for the NPC, you've got all the injured guys that are coming back and forward. You're starting to work with Clayton McMillan, around the 8 All Blacks 15, you're starting to share. So there's a lot of big picture stuff that comes along with it, and I love it. I could really enjoy it. I love forecasting, being ahead, not just, like I said, from now until the end of the year. Yeah.
Our guest at the New Zealand Campus of Innovation and Sport, of course, is head coach of the All Blacks, Scott Robertson. 1:26. We're going to take a break, have a glass of water here, and then come back with some of your calls. There are a couple lined up with some interesting questions. Text them through 9292 or 0800 80 10 80 if you want to try your luck on the phones. Back in a moment on Weekend Sport.
New All Blacks coach Scott Robertson taking your calls on 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
1:30 on News Talk ZB. Got another 15 minutes or so with Scott Robertson here. Let's go to the phones and get some questions from our audience. Stuart, your question for Scott Robertson.
Oh, thanks, gentlemen, for the opportunity. Coach, I know it's not a good thing to jump ahead to future test matches, but I'm just thinking about the Rugby Championship and the 2 test matches coming up in South Africa. I noted that the South Africans employed a situation where they had 8 forwards in the reserves. I think they called it like an 8-0 split. And it occurs to me that you could almost, with their big forwards, you could almost have 2 lots of forwards in an 80-minute test match. I know it's a gamble, but do you fear something like that, or do you see some merit in an 8-0 split, sir?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks for calling in. It's an 8. I'm not sure about a 8. Sometimes it's 7-1 or a 6-2 split, but that's a whole 4-pack. Jason Ryan wants it, actually. I bet. Once he's heard this, he'll probably employ it. But look, I think especially in South Africa, that's their strength. They've the impact that they can bring on. Personally, if you lose it back early, it makes things a little bit difficult. You've got to lose forward on the wing, potentially. But look, let's just talk about the trip to South Africa. It's a hell of an opportunity and a hell of a test for us to go to Joburg, get down to Cape Town. We've been to Cape Town for 7-8 years. They like us playing down there, so to open that up, and a lot of Kiwis are coming over because it's special. That's the special part. Those are getting up in the middle of the night memories, aren't they, from a young kid to watch some great heroes of ourselves, All Blacks, still come from behind. Big long drop kicks. We've had everything over there, so it's going to be a special couple of weeks for us.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Stuart. Appreciate it. Faye, you've got a question for Scott Robertson about his name, I think, or his nickname.
Yes, I have, but before I start, could I please just congratulate Scott on his lovely doco on TV at the moment called Razor. And I've been watching it. I think his next career might be in TV. Just before I start, I'm 94 years of age, and I've been watching the Canterbury team ever since, well, I can't remember when. Robbie Deans was playing fullback then, and etc. But I've always followed the Crusaders, absolutely love them, and congratulations when you had them, and I hope you're as successful as the All Blacks. Now, the question I was going to ask you is how you got the name Razor, and the other one is, do you get annoyed the amount of people, and they're so-called in the media as well, who keep calling you Robinson?
Oh, like you, Faye. You're right on. Yeah, look, that doco, get a bit sick of myself actually, but yeah, it was done a while back, and I think people appreciate it. I actually can't watch it. I can't watch myself do that sort of stuff, so I'm glad people are enjoying, so thank you. And look, the nickname, well, it's a long story. Somebody else gave me another nickname which I didn't like, so I gave myself my one, which is stuck, fortunately. And what happened was we had a guy, David Knox and Pat Howard did a 1-2 cup for the Brumbies. It was 1996. The Crusaders were playing at Lancaster Park then, and I threw my shoulder and cut him in half. Like, it was a good tackle. It was pretty impressive. And I got off and just the shoulder off, and one of the boys said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, just dusting off the blade." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Oh, the old razor blade, cut him in half," and through a little bit of branding, a bit of a song and a dance that stuck. So there's the story.
I love it. Thank you, Faye, for your for your call and your lovely words as well. Let's go to Pete. Pete, what's your question for the All Blacks coach?
Yeah, g'day. Hey, I was just wondering what he sees as the makeup for the halfback first five combination with Cortez Radama and D-Mac, or does he see Bodie at fullback? Or is Stephen Periferi going to start there? The makeup there, I think, is really key. They've played together during the season, and they know each other really well. And I think D-Mac will just keep him calm while he is here if he does get his chance. Not to say that Finlay's great, but are you looking at combinations there, or is it going to be something else depending on the makeup of the English team?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. Can I ask you a question? Was he from Waikato?
No, I'm not actually.
Ooh, okay. Chest, I'll tell you what, everywhere you go, everyone's a selector.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, whole local top. But yeah, good question. Obviously Tuesday we'll definitely find out. But you do look at combinations, and someone like a Cortez Ratama who's reminds me of Taraku Barlow. He's a competitor. He works so hard off the ball, his inside running. He's great at his craft. Look, Scotty Henson, he's been working with him from afar. All the halfbacks around New Zealand, and he's really, really impressed. And that combination with D-Mac is important. Look, I think TJ Perenara is playing some footy at the moment. Come back off an injury like that at that highest level just puts in perspective what an athlete and a person he is. So, look, we've got some choices to make there, and we'll see you Tuesday with the selection, Pete.
Good man, Pete. Thanks for your question. Let's move on. David, you've got a question for Rosa?
Yeah, what's happened to the drop kick?
What has happened to the drop kick, David wants to know, Rosa?
Jeez. Good question. The drop kick, are we going to practice one in the next couple of days now, after you just mentioned that? Oh, look, there's a time and place for it. Obviously, England have been good at it, haven't they? They won a World Cup game off the back of it. You've got to have it there. You've got to put it in your bank, and to make sure it's 3 points. It's just earned, just like you do with the penalty. So, look, we've won games on it before. So, yep, it's on the list.
Rest assured, David, the drop kick is there. Tim, your question for Rosa?
Hey, kia ora, Reza. Just wondering, what was the reasoning behind only picking 3 specialised locks?
Yeah, good. Look, with the squad of 32 and the Sima Penny female that can cover lock, and just the injuries at that time, we felt that was our best mix. And because we can bring in injury cover, we brought a young guy in like a Sam Derry, so it gave us our fourth, and that was the reasoning behind it. And also we've got some quality loose forwards as well. So we've got the next one coming through, and it's three experienced second rowers.
Let's go to Tony. What's your question, Tony?
Yeah, Piney. Scotty, what do you say to your team when they don't follow instructions?
Who are we talking about here? Is this, he's suggesting someone else in the household? No.
Maybe the Crusaders or maybe the All Blacks, yeah.
Okay. We have to repeat. Obviously, if they're not, they're not delivering. It's either you look at yourself first. I think that's the first. But how are you delivering the message? Why isn't it getting across? And then probably the big thing is check for clarity and understanding. And if it doesn't still keep working, just give them an opportunity somewhere else.
Thanks for your call, Tony. Let's go to Mark. What have you got as a question, Mark?
Good afternoon. First of all, congratulations, Razor, on your appointment, and congratulations for picking TJ. Jason's already asked one of the questions for me. I'm a Blues supporter. The season they've had, what does Hoskin really have to do to get in? And the other one, on a lesser note maybe, is Riccatelli.
All right, Hoskins, Tutu and Riccatelli both missed the cut this time. Do they are they in the picture still?
Yeah, look, Hoskins, as I had the conversation, I talked to him through the year, and I showed him what was required. So, even talk about individual conversations on the radio, but so he knows. Of course, there's an opportunity to get back. And I mentioned a lot before around the areas, the wide areas, and Riccatelli. Yeah, look, he was in the conversation. Looked at him closely. Look, I coached him through 20s, know him personally, and we just believe these three hookers are the best for us moving forward.
All right, and one final question on the phones. Another Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Piney. Hey, Razor. Yeah, hey. Just a general question. What does success look like at the end of Razor's reign as All Black coach?
Oh, kia ora. It's like a job interview. Good question. Success looks like we've got a team that can adapt and win the test match in front of them. Great depth in our squad, so guys can come in and out and play different positions as we travel around the world. That's what success looks like for us.
Good on you, Mark. Thanks for your question. Thanks for all your questions. I've got a couple more before we knock it on the head. You've got other places to be, Razor. Ben O'Keefe's been in camp. I saw a photo of Ben O'Keefe.
And Paul Williams.
And Paul Williams as well. So what's the strategy or the rationale behind that?
Yeah, it's great. It's important. Like, they adjudicate the game, don't they? So you need to be connected. You understand what the rulings are, the interpretation, because we've got, laws, as they call it, interpretation of laws. And that sometimes can be frustrating for people and for us. So we're trying to make as clear as possible as we possibly can. They keep us consistently updated. Look at the ref that we've got in front of him. What is his personality? How does he ref? And he gets on field with us, and he educates. We have some tough trainings, physical training. So he gets the whistle in his hand as well.
How much scrutiny do you expect in this role?
As much as any other All Black coach.
Compared to the scrutiny you received as Crusaders coach, how elevated is it?
Oh, obviously extremely elevated. The expectation, as I mentioned before, is high. The responsibility of the role. It's something I've prepared myself as for the last 11 years as a head coach. I've set myself up like a player does. You spend trying to get as many experiences as you can. From coaching my club side to my NPC side to the super side, it's naturally the progression and up, and all those experiences help you, to deal with the scrutiny. The biggest thing is I've got to know who I am, who I need around me, and then there's an element I've got to enjoy it, but I've just got to own it as well. Then that's the biggest thing if it works or doesn't.
Do you have a close inner circle of people outside of rugby?
Yeah. Yep. I've got 2 or 3 people that I talk as mentors for the rugby side of it, and 1 or 2 on the outside of it. What do they see? How's the messaging? How am I coming across? So on field, like I was talking about, my own personal leadership, how I lead myself, and then also just someone to put a bit of perspective on life, because, it's going to come in some capacity, and it's always good to talk. That's how I work. I need to talk through it with somebody, and it just clears my head. And in terms of the guidance you take, so there are certain people who, everyone's got an opinion, as you know. And that's a beautiful thing. I think we need that. Yeah. You've got to embrace that. People, selecting Riccatellis and they're selecting Cortez Ratama, awesome. When you lose that, that's the essence of what New Zealand rugby is about. That's the DNA, the connection that people have got an opinion. It connects them to our beautiful black jersey, and that sets us on the world stage.
You excited?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The motions go. You sort of, I'm really big focus on getting the week right, so I can enjoy that, so we can prepare. So a lot of my focus goes on to the preparation, not so much the outcome. I know it's cliche, and once I get the process right, I can enjoy it much more.
All right, just to finish this facility. How cool, eh?
Yeah. Look, Kevin and Malcolm, who had the vision to bring this alive. It's pretty incredible. A lot of people have visions and putting it into action, and it's still growing. The hut's thriving out here. I haven't spent much time before out here, but it works. It's 2 minutes to everywhere. It feels like home. The food, the bedrooms, the green room. And guess what? It was the greatest day ever in Wellington this morning. It was balmy. It was like 20 degrees, and then it rained as we're walking off the field. So perfect timing.
All right. Message for the fans, finally? Message for the fans?
Oh, look, our catchphrase for everything is together we walk. And we want to do this together. We want to bring everyone together. And just like the opportunity people walked towards and embrace the challenges ahead. That's what our ancestors did, and that's what we'll do, and we'll go and have some fun.
Fantastic. Razor, thanks for taking the time. It's been entertaining, instructional, educational. I know you've got somewhere else to be. Thanks for taking the time to join us this afternoon.
Cheers, Bryony. Thanks, everyone.
Scott Robertson, All Blacks coach here on News Talk ZB. 1:45, back after this.
Put your question to the coach. All Blacks coach Scott Robertson. Taking your calls on 0800 80 1080. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB, what a pleasure to have Scott Robertson with us here at the New Zealand Campus of Innovation and Sport. He's had to shoot away. They've got a meeting at 2, but thank you for all your calls and correspondence. We really enjoyed receiving all your messages. I passed on some of the ones that weren't suitable for on air to Razor as well. Fantastic. During the week, the All Blacks, of course, assembled here on Wednesday. When they did, I had the chance to catch up with All Blacks open side flanker Dalton Papali'i.
Weekend Sport.
How were the celebrations the other night?
Yeah, pretty good, bro. It's pretty good. It's a long time coming, so I think the boys went for it, and there's going to be still some boys that are pretty feeling it at the moment. But new campaign. But a lot of the boys, have other campaigns are going into. The Māori All Blacks boys went in a bit earlier than us, and we knew we were coming here, so we had to go pretty hard, pretty fast. But our boys really enjoyed it and enjoyed a great season that. To celebrate that trophy we won, so yeah.
I want to talk about the All Blacks, but there must be some deep satisfaction with what the Blues achieved, is there?
Oh, 100%. I think I've been in that team for a long time, I think like 8 years now, and the first couple of years, we let's be honest, we sucked, and we got hit pretty hard with games and stuff, and we lost, and then we started to grow with Rangi, Leon McDonald under the helm. And he, we were there, sort of there, and there was a few finals, playoff games we did lose, and I think with Vern coming in, I think he already had the platform from that was already made from Leon, and we finally did it. So weight off the shoulders. It was more. It was good celebrating, but it was more. Sometimes I sort of sat back and I was just soaking it all in. That we finally did it.
I love that. All right, so you transition from Super Rugby to All Blacks Rugby. You've done that transition a few times. What are the main challenges around transitioning from Blues to All Blacks?
I think it's just fully getting into a new game plan, and especially this year, and with the new coaching and the new coaching staff that want to sort of implement their style and their game plan, because the coaches we've had before have always sort of been in the system, and assistant coaches and all that. So we sort of knew what the game plan, what the base and the platform was like, but with a new coaching staff, complete new coaching staff. It's going to be very different. So it's right now, I think, the next couple of days is going to be more about clarity, and especially the boys, finalist boys coming in here and getting to know the game plan, because I'm pretty sure the most of the boys who weren't in the finals had another camp. So I think that we've just got a lot of learning to do, but looking forward to it.
Do you feel like you've got a decent crack at this number 7 jersey?
Yeah, every year that's my mindset. You never own the jersey, and I've had a few years in the jersey now where, 1 week I have it, the next week I don't. So I never take it for granted. But the cool thing is that when you come to this environment, you get the best out of all the loosies, because it's a tough competition, out there. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's always a decent crack, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
You touched on a real area of strength in New Zealand rugby. You look at the guys who haven't made the squad, for example, and there's some bloody good loose forwards there. So how do you assess the strength of 6, 7 and 8 at the moment in New Zealand rugby?
It's probably one of our strongest positions. You look through, like you said yourself, you look through the Super Rugby and how much talent is coming through that, the 6, 7 and 8. Yeah, it keeps you on your toes. That's a good thing. And I remember when I was a young fella coming, and I was doing the same with what the young fellas are doing to me. So that's a cool thing. The best for you to play your best is you have good competition within the team, and there's no love lost. We all want to get better, and at the end of the day, we're all part of the same team. And my goal at the end of the day is to win. And I want to win. I want to dominate teams. I want to win on the highest level in the biggest stadiums. And for me to do that is, like I said, it's a competition within the team, and I think we got a lot of talent, and especially the boys who didn't make it, the loosies, they're going to be knocking on the door straight away. So yeah.
And in that regard, in terms of all wanting the same thing, how do you welcome and support a new guy like Wallace Satiti, who this is all new to him, right? He turns up this morning, gets all his new gear. How do you make sure that he's okay?
You just got to have the little conversations with him, and he's an awesome player, and he shone this year, man. He really did. He really put his name up forward, and he got the fruits now. But you can say it's the fruits, but you come into this environment, the fruits is being on the field and doing the damage. So so it's the little conversations, and putting your arm around him, and it's not more the on field. It's the stuff off the field. Connecting with him, going and get a coffee and stuff like that. But the cool thing with this team is that when I was coming in as well, all the older guys did that. So it's second nature to welcome the new boys, because you know how special it is. So yeah, that's how it's going to happen.
That is Dalton Papali'i, who was here along with the other members, all of them, and some extras as well on Wednesday. The 32-man squad assembling for the first time with their training partners too. Close to 40 players actually, plus all the management and staff. Had a wonderful welcome here at the New Zealand Campus of Innovation and Sport on Wednesday, and have been using the facilities and what facilities they are. Just on that, after 2 o'clock, we'll find out more about this incredible world-class facility when General Manager of NZCIS, Jamie Tout, joins us. 7 away from 2, News Talk ZB.
Getting the behind-the-scenes intel live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024. It's Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Just on 4 to 2 after our news at 2, General Manager of the New Zealand Campus of Innovation and Sport, Jamie Tout, joins us. I'm actually in his office, so I'm actually probably in his chair. But we'll have a chat about the facility and the All Blacks' use of it. We'll also head to the Tour de France, which starts tonight. Anthony McCrossan, Tour de France commentator, is with us. Your calls and correspondence continue to be welcome. We're back after 2 on News Talk ZB.
Live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024, it's Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
News Talk ZB, welcome back in, or welcome in, as the case may be. I certainly hope you didn't miss the last hour, though. Terrific chat with Scott Robertson. Again, just our thanks to All Blacks management for making that possible in a very tight build-up, even though, you might think 10 days is a long time to get ready for a test match. It isn't really, so to even dedicate an hour to us and to you, our listeners, was greatly appreciated, and we hope to do it again regularly across this year and across Scott Robertson's tenure. More from the All Blacks camp at the New Zealand Campus of Innovation and Sport to come. Had a chat to a couple of other players this week. We'll try and squeeze those in. General Manager of this facility, Jamie Tout, is standing by to chat to us about the facility itself, but also the All Blacks connection with it, and some other wider issues as well about these sorts of facilities and how they can be financed and how sport itself can be financed. We're also across at the Tour de France, starting in Italy this year for the first time, and Tour commentator Anthony McCrossan is going to join us this hour as well to run an eye over what looks like a two-man race with Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard going head-to-head. They've won the last 4 between them, but are there other riders who perhaps might have something to say about that? Your calls and correspondence always welcome. 0800 80 10 80 get you through on the phone. 9292 if you would prefer to correspond by text. But with the time at 2:08, as we always do at around about this time on Weekend Sport, it's time to get you up to date with some of the stuff that might have escaped your attention. We call it In Case You Missed It, and we start in the National Basketball League. The Canterbury Rams have extended their winning streak to 14 games, beating the Taranaki Airs 111-83 in New Plymouth last night.
Darling, Walter Brown, ball movement supreme. Kyle Isaac, that is basketball at its finest.
They are running hot, the Canterbury Rams at the moment. Max Verstappen has edged out Lando Norris to claim pole for the sprint race at Formula One's Austrian Grand Prix.
But what about Max Verstappen? Can he do it again? Yes, he can! Less than a tenth of a second, but it's Max Verstappen who goes to the top of the times and provisionally takes pole for the sprint.
To the AFL, a close contest last night between Brisbane and Melbourne at the iconic Gabba.
McCluggage has kicked the most important score. That's ridiculous. I reckon they've done enough. Siren, Brisbane have come from nowhere to 5th spot.
Yeah, terrific contest last night. And staying on that side of the Tasman, Golden Point drama in the NRL. A Matt Burton field goal sealing the Bulldogs a 15-14 victory over the Sharks in Sydney.
He looks good. Kicks it. Hits the upright and goes through. Matt Burton. He banks one in for the win.
And that is In Case You Missed It for today, just on 2:10. News Talk ZB.
Live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024 on your home of sport. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes. New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Coming to you live from the New Zealand campus of innovation and sport. Wonderful facility in Upper Hutt. The All Blacks have been using it since Wednesday. They'll be here till Tuesday. They fly to Dunedin Tuesday night for the first test of the year. A week tonight, actually, at Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin. We'll have a full commentary of that game for you from just after 7 o'clock next Saturday night. And in fact, Weekend Sport will come to you from Dunedin next Saturday and Sunday. But for now, we're here at the NZCIS and in the office of the General Manager, Jamie Tout, who joins us now. Thanks for giving up your office. First of all, Jamie, get a bit closer to that mic so we can all hear you. Nice to see you, mate.
Nice to see you, Pine. It's like looking in a mirror. We both had more hair back in the day and probably better eyesight, so no, all good.
Look, I think one of us is fitter than the other, and I think we all know who that might be. But for those who aren't familiar with NZCIS, a lot of people are, because it has really turned heads everywhere. Can you tell us a bit about the background to the development of what is a world-class facility?
Yeah, well, I guess people in the region will previously know this as the old CIT, the old Central Institute of Technology. And it was a thriving campus back in the day. It was where the local mayor here, Wayne Guppy, and those guys with pharmacy, and there's a lot of people went through this doing their sort of podiatry programs and things. It was super successful between the 1970s and 2000 until it was shut down, where 3 polytechs or similar institutions merged into one. It sat dormant for 16 years. Before 2 locals, Malcolm Gillies and Kevin Melville, had the brain wave. People called it a brain fart maybe at the time, but definitely a brain wave long term, where they've since diversified the campus to be a lot of things. It's got commercial real estate, over 20 floors of commercial. It's got over 400 beds of accommodation. It's got food and beverage, putting through over 100,000 meals a year. And it's got this beautiful new sports facility. So it's something that a lot of people around the region take a lot of pride in. And I'm just grateful to be on the waka.
How does this compare to facilities in New Zealand and globally?
Look, I can say straight up, and we're not sounding arrogant or facetious, but this is a world-class facility. It stacks up amongst the best in the world. We take that from the guys like Scott Wootton and David Ball, who have played in those other environments. We did a lot of work early doors with our foundation membership group to make sure that we got what they wanted. But equally, we went out to the world and luckily enough had input from 35 international teams. We had Paris Saint-Germain, Man United, New York Giants, Yankees, Knicks, all fill out a facility matrix for us, looking at what world class looked like. And it didn't mean that we took all those ideas and tried to include them. The New York Giants is probably one of the most beautiful facilities I've seen, but it's not who we are. They exercise for 2 seconds at a time. It's 90 male athletes. They're 150 kilos each, and it's one sport. We're dealing with the female Phoenix player who's 55, 65 kilos. We've got athletes running for 80 to 90 minutes at a time, and we're dealing with multiple codes. So it's a very different facility, and some of the sports you thought we might not learn much from, we learnt a lot, like the UFC. We learnt lots about how we connect people, having those impromptu conversations, reducing time on feet, looking for those sort of efficiencies.
What are the main features, again, for those who aren't familiar with the complex, what are the main features? Tell us about the main facilities, for example, the All Blacks are taking advantage of this week.
I think size and flexibility is probably the two biggest features. We've got plenty of space, 18-hectare campus. We don't try and fill up every corner. The gym is 1,000 square metres, but we leave plenty of free space for training. There's a beautiful big green room out here to the side of us. It's 70 metres by 50. Having that capacity to get in, get your clarity work done early in the week. We've spent a lot of time, and Mal and Kev a lot of money, putting in the technology backbone, which enables us to capture footage in real time, analyse it instantaneously, provide feedback, and you see the athletes really benefit from a lot of self-coaching. They can identify their own mistakes in real time up on the screens, and they can react and adjust. Look, we're super proud of some world firsts we've achieved here. We've got the biggest interactive screen in the world. It's 2.5 times bigger than anything that's been built before. You can play darts, you can play Connect 4. Everyone loves games. No matter how old you are, people like to play. Creates that sense of competition. Competition leads to intensity. We've got beautiful big plunge pools. We've installed a 300-kilo accessibility hoist across all the pools. And again, something that hadn't been done to connect 4 aquatic environments and 2 dry land environments. We've got a massive altitude chamber. It's 130 square metres. That means we can put 40 watt bikes in there at a time. Every athlete can go for gold. We can get it up to 3,000 metres. Tour de France starting tonight. So we can replicate those types of conditions to the athletes to benefit from. And probably the other single point of difference is having the accommodation on site. And it just leads to a whole bunch less stress during your day for the athlete. They can get up, they can walk to their first session, they can recover here, they can walk back. It's just missing out on all that time on feet or time on buses.
Yeah, and I think Razor even made that point. To go from one place to another doesn't take a bus; it just takes a 2-minute walk. Two of your tenants are the Hurricanes and the Phoenix. If we just look at the men's teams, just for this question, Hurricanes made the semi-finals, Phoenix made the semi-finals. Are you able to, in any way, assess how important being here was to their success?
I think both teams probably took a good 12 months to work out how you live in your house. It's sort of like when you move in, you sort of work out where the power points are and how you use each room, where you want your furniture. And to a lesser degree, that's what I think we saw with the Hurricanes and the Phoenix. But to use Mike Cron's analogy, Crono always talked about having cattle on your farm, being the athletes, having the right cattle. Well, I think we've now got an awesome farm. You've got Chiefy and Clark, just great farmers and all their support staff. And then the cattle on the farm being the athletes. But to look at it another way, you could say that a whole bunch of things have actually come together that multiply out. So we've got 1 + 1 is now equaling 3. And it's sort of just finding that recipe, how things work together. And it's not just the shiny toys. It's all the stuff that sits behind it, building that culture, the connection element. And as a facility, we've worked really hard on that as well to try and get that connection element right.
You were the venue as well for the official All Blacks launch on Wednesday, which was a really terrific ceremony, I have to say, involving kids from 6 local schools, the players, others associated with the game, dignitaries, a lot of people who have a vested interest in this place. How special a day was that for you?
Oh, look, we're extremely proud. A lot of people on the waka here, and you look at that event, and it's a culmination of a lot of things leading up to it. We're proud to welcome all our international guests. We were super proud when we had the wheelchair rugby here at the start of the year. That was special as well. But when we stand up there and it sort of resonates that you've created a facility that the types of teams like the All Blacks want to use and want to be based here for their first camp, it is special. It is really special for everyone.
Tell us about the special rope. I'm going to get the wording wrong here, but the rope tying that happened that day. Just give us a background to that.
Yeah, look, that's something that evolved with Luke Crawford. He's the commentator here at the campus, and he spent a lot of time in rugby circles. He has been with us on this journey near since day dot, and it was in 2020, just pre-COVID, when he walked into the big green room, and it was just a dirt surface, and he stood there in the middle, and he sort of looked around, and he said, "Iho, I can see this as being somewhere we're going to get together and assemble." And it was nearly a year later when he walked back after COVID. We had our big braces up in the ceiling there, and he said, "Brother, this is our whariwaka. This is our boat shed. We're going to make boats go faster here, and we're going to get people on the right seats on the bus and right seats on the waka." And out of that, we talked a lot to Te Aotearoa and iwi around what does it mean for our values, not something that's going to be a brand, but our values, and it's how we want to be seen by others. And they're proudly represented on both sides of the whariwaka here. It's something that a kid can walk past and look up and ask questions about what it means. And the three values that we have all talk about, they're represented on paddles. And if you look at the paddles, we've got one that represents growth. It's the multiple elements of growth in your life. It's not one single koru. It's multiple korus on the one paddle, which talks about the time off the field as well as on it, and elements outside of the game, but it's important for us to grow. The second value is about our connection. It's about our connection to our physical environment, but also to each other and yourself. And we talk about, at the top of that paddle, the light triangles and the dark. The light triangles are the good times. It's the stuff you see on social every day. But it's the bad times that often define us and how we overcome those challenges. So we've made sure there's more light triangles than there is dark, but you need to recognise the dark. Those paddles are facing upwards. They're at rest. And that's something that we worked with Kura and the guys at Te Aotearoa to understand, that those paddles being at rest are facing upwards, but there's a little fern in the bottom of each of those that's always upright, no matter orientation. That's our positivity that we try and bring to every day. And the last paddle, if Kevin Mel are listening, I said it all the time, so they don't mind, but that middle paddle is our mangapati, and that is the Kevin Mels of the world. They're not the prettiest fish, but geez, they get stuff done. Yep. And it's just tenaciousness, it's resilience, it's just always finding a way. And so those paddle values are really great to sort of tell that story, but had to be something next that could tie a team to the facility. And hence that tota, that rope presentation that we do, is now that it's more than a symbolic gesture. It's actually a really meaningful gesture that you walk up, you present the tota to the team that's coming onto site. They walk over to one of our po inside the green room and they attach themselves to our waka. And that gesture is that we've got your back, and when you leave, the rope will be taken down. We'll store it in our foyer for everyone to know that you've been here. But whilst you're away, we'll be thinking about you. When you come back, we want you to attach your waka again.
I love that. So how does it work in terms of the likes of your tenants here, the Hurricanes, the Phoenix? How do they, what do they pay you? How does it all work financially?
Yeah, cool. Look, I think it's well known in sport generally, and in New Zealand particularly, they haven't got wheelbarrows of cash. Like, no one could afford to build a facility like this themselves. No. So if we say you need $1 to run this place, we need tenants paying 33 cents each, so they can share those resources and break it down. And to try and do that, there's been a bit of a soft landing period where they're sort of bedding in and finding out what they use. And then what happens next is they treat it like an a la carte menu. So they say, well, I want 3 entrees, 5 mains, 2 desserts. And for us, in our language, that's meaning they'll spend 2 hours in the gym, 4 days a week, 32 weeks a year. And we are then licensed to occupy those spaces. And so they can come and draw down on a bucket of hours, the women's Phoenix, the men's Phoenix, come in and they draw down on those hours to utilise the different spaces. So they pay us a licence fee, and that licence fee or that agreement spread out over a number of years. And like anything, the greater the commitment, the more benefits we can give them, and work together on proper partnerships, not just in a commercial sense, but also maybe looking forward to how we generate other revenues with them along this journey.
And just on that, can the Hurricanes, the Phoenix, other sports teams, can they afford that?
Look, I think, Piney, we have to find ways. And again, Mal and Kev, Mal particularly is driving a mindset. We have to change the way sport is funded in New Zealand. And it's not uncommon, it's out in social media, that even the Central Coast Mariners this year, the most successful club, won everything they could, but they still posted a huge loss because the central funding system has taken away a lot of that money. We've seen successful clubs would be the Penrith Panthers. They've got their own leagues club. They posted $153 million revenue this year. They made $800,000 worth of profit. They also built a hotel, hence the profit being a little bit lower.
Yes.
But that's pretty smart footy. But the revenue streams that they have are things like gambling. They've got poker machines. They've got their own clubs with food and beverage. And those two elements alone, I think it was $90 million out of gambling. It was $30 million out of food and beverage. We simply don't have those revenue streams for our teams here in New Zealand. So we have to box a bit smarter. Now, we're looking at lots of creative ways to do that. Now, whether that's bricks and mortar businesses, whether that's through the commercialisation of information, whether that's through developing products, we have to find ways and means to look after the club, the athlete and ourselves. And realistically have those open conversations. How big's the pie? How do we cut it up? That's where it's got to go. We can't rely on bums on seats at stadiums anymore.
No, and because what? The traditional revenue streams, ticketing, sponsorship and broadcast.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more than just those three?
100%. And we know that we saw an influx of the people jumping on the boat for the Phoenix and for the Hurricanes as it got closer to the end of the season. But I think we have to ensure that if we diversify revenue streams, we're not so reliant on those things. The broadcast, as you know, I don't need to tell you, Piney, it's just changed.
Yeah.
The way that people ingest content has changed. Merchandise, we have to be smarter. How can we access that global audience? So it's maybe building out those international partnerships with overseas clubs, that sort of thing.
Yeah, food for thought. What is your vision for NZCIS? If we're sitting here in 10 years, what are we seeing around us?
Oh, wow. I'm glad Mal's not here because that would be a much longer conversation. The guy doesn't stop. And Mal and Kev are really complementary individuals of each other. A lot of fun to work with. But you have to run to keep up. And that's great. Like it keeps your mind active and your body active. What could it look like? I would love to see 2 new basketball courts, netball courts across from the main gym here. I think it's now establishing what that next user group could be. Would love to contemplate the idea of making the first parasport venue in the world from ground up. We think ballerinas, they run, jump and land like netball and basketball. Why aren't we talking to them? There's some Olympic sports that don't have a home currently, so can we be smart in sort of how we construct that venue? Would love that venue to be a medical centre. It's not uncommon knowledge that we really struggle in New Zealand for body scanning imagery, CT, MRI, X-ray. Why can't we do it here privately? Why can't we open that up to Joanne Public around the place? If there was one vision that was sort of really out there, and we've talked about it sort of, and other people got wind of it, but you talk about Trentham Racecourse, what could happen there in the future? Maintain the integrity of the racecourse, but is it possible to have like a 10,000 seat covered stadium sitting whack in the middle of that? Like, that's the sort of blue sky that I know it gets us excited, but look, there's a lot of water under that bridge.
But then you take it back to the genesis of this place, and that was blue skying as well. And here we are. It's possible, right?
Yeah, look, that's Mal's favourite saying, really. He said, if you can conceive it, believe it, you'll achieve it. And there was a lot of people, I think, were surprised when this was a pile of dirt to then come back in 18 months and go, oh, wow, it's actually happened.
Yeah. No, I must admit, you were generous enough to give me a look around when it was just a pile of dirt, really, and some bare bones. And I come back here on a weekly basis during the Phoenix and Hurricane seasons for media sessions, and every time I drive in here, I just get a sense of what is possible if somebody is a doer, if they conceive, believe, they can achieve. So it's a terrific place, mate. I feel like I need an office out here. I feel like I need to talk to the powers that be at News Talk ZB, and we need to build a studio so that we don't have to plug into, just temporarily. We should permanently be here.
Mate, Mel would kick me if I said, we've got 800 square metres for you up in one of the vacant floors still.
Well, I'm going to get my people to talk to your people while we've been talking to one another. Jamie, thanks for your hospitality this afternoon.
It's a pleasure.
For giving up your office, and congrats on a terrific week so far with the All Blacks. I know it's going to stand them in really good stead this year.
No, we hope so too.
Good on you, mate. Thanks indeed.
Buddy.
Jamie Tout, General Manager of the New Zealand Campus of Innovation and Sport in Upper Hutt, where we are broadcasting from today. It is 2:27. When we come back, we're off to France, off to Italy, actually, for the start of the Tour de France, the most iconic bike race in the world. Tour commentator Anthony McCrossan is with us right after this.
Live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024 on your home of sport. Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
Bang on 2:30 on News Talk ZB. I had a question through about Cam Roigard, actually. I didn't get the chance to ask Razor about that, but I did see Cam Roigard, interestingly enough, just before we came into our mobile studio here at NZCIS. He'd just been working out in the gym, and I just asked him if he's on track, and he said, yes, I'm on track. So I think you'll see Cam Roigard wearing the black jersey potentially on the end of year tour this year if his progress continues on the same trajectory, which is terrific news. One of the most iconic sporting events in the world is the Tour de France. It starts tonight. Let's bring in tour commentator Anthony McCrossan to Weekend Sport. Anthony, thanks for taking the time to preview the Tour de France with us. Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard, they've won the last 4 tours between them, each of them aiming to win a third Tour de France. Are we looking at a two-man race here?
That's an interesting question, isn't it? They've dominated the Tour de France. Tadej and Jonas have won the last 4 editions. But I think it's really easy for you to be thinking this is a 2-horse race, or actually, is it a 1-horse race? Because Tadej Pogacar really recently dominated the Giro d'Italia. He just rode away with it. He was head and shoulders above everybody else. However, when you look at the field of the Tour de France, there's a lot of riders who believe that Tadej and Jonas are beatable. Now, Jonas is potentially beatable because he's just had a huge crash a few months ago in the Tour of the Basque Country. And there's actually been questions over whether Jonas will actually ride the Tour de France. But he's here and he's riding, and that's fantastic. So we've got those two. But outside of that, there's a number of other riders who can win this race.
Yeah, I want to get to those other riders in a moment, Anthony, but just on Jonas Vingegaard and that crash and the fact that he is under a bit of a cloud coming into the Tour de France, this is not the sort of race where you can be anything less than 100% prepared, is it? Could he get found out potentially?
The Tour de France, there's nowhere to hide. At some point, there's a twist in the tail for everybody, and everyone has some sort of bad day. If you come into the Tour de France and you aren't prepared, at some point you're going to be found out. And that's the massive question mark over Jonas Vingegaard. Does he have the endurance? Does he have the form? Can he compete for 3 weeks? Now, we know on normal circumstances Jonas can, but can he this time? Because Tadej has been superb all season. And I'm sure at some point Jonas could be found out. And I actually wonder whether it could be in the early stages. Because as we ride into the race, Jonas will probably get better and better. But the early stages of this year's Tour de France are brutal. We start in Florence. The first few days are intermediate mountain stages. We go to the Galibier on day 4 in the mountains. So if you're not on form, you will be found out. And I am sure Tadej's team is going to do everything they can to question Jonas over the first few days and get rid of him potentially. And then we might see another rider in the Visma Lisa bike team emerge as a possible leader of that squad. But I do hope that Jonas is on top form, that we have an amazing battle, and we have the usual twists and turns of the 3 weeks.
Yeah, and look, I promise I do want to talk about the other riders, but just before we leave these two, Pogacar and Vingegaard, are we looking at one of cycling's all-time great rivalries already, or a battle that is shaping to be so?
I think it is. What I think is fantastic about this rivalry, though, is that they do really respect each other, which I think is a fantastic rivalry. It's not like this really brutal rivalry where they really hate each other and they want to just beat each other every day. There is respect there, and they do race each other very, very hard on the climbs. The attacks they do are fantastic. We've seen amazing moments, actually, of respect. You remember a couple of years ago when they shook hands on a descent because they realised they were racing each other so hard, potentially they were going to crash each other. So it's kind of a beautiful rivalry in some ways, but it's also one of those rivalries that at top of mountains, we're on the edge of our seats. We can't wait for that duel between the two of them at top of a mountain where they just don't give an inch. They want to beat each other and they just will not let the other one win. I think it's a true sporting rivalry. It's fantastic to watch.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. All right, let's look at some of the others, Anthony. Who are the other riders to watch in terms of possible overall Tour de France winners?
In particular, I think Primož Roglič is probably, for me, the third favourite of this year's race because he looks already to have come out the crash in the Basque Country, not unscathed, but relatively unscathed. He's just won the Critérium de Dauphiné, which is one of those build-up races for the Tour de France. He looked superb there. He had another couple of crashes. Primož tends to crash a lot. Let's hope he doesn't crash too much in the Tour. He's already won 3 Tours of Spain, La Vueltas. He's already won the Giro d'Italia. He's finished on the podium of the Tour de France. He wants to win the Tour. This is the one that he really needs. I think Primož is probably your third favourite and the rider who we will see battle with Tadej and Jonas. Remco, he was questioned in the Dauphiné and he kept saying, I'm not ready yet. He really did suffer after that crash in the Basque Country. He didn't look ready in the Dauphiné. I was there. It was, 2 and a bit weeks ago, 3 weeks till the Tour. He's had time to go back to altitude, to train again. I hope Remco's ready because Remco with Primož, with Jonas, with Tadej is an incredible duel over 3 weeks. And the Belgian fans really believe in him to win the Tour because he's already won a Grand Tour. He's won La Vuelta. It's going to be exciting if he's really there and he's recovered.
Let's look at the race route then. The 2024 Tour features 7 mountain stages, including 4 summit finishes. How much is that going to suit the climbers in terms of overall finishing position?
Well, when we look at the stages, the mountain stages, of course, are critical and you've got to be on form those days. But there's a couple of other stages I'd highlight which are really important. There's a gravel stage in this year's race. That gravel day comes on day number 9. That's a day when you get that normal term, the famous term, you can't win the Tour de France that day, but you can certainly lose it. And there are 14 sectors of gravel roads on day number 9. And I think that's a really critical day for this year's race because if you have bad luck, you'll lose minutes. You'll be way behind. Certainly, you've got to be in touch in the mountains. That's without doubt. There's 53,000 meters of climbing in this year's race. And you've also got a couple of individual time trials, notably one on the final day. So if the race is still really close, we have a time trial on the last day. And I always think back to 1989 on the Champs-Élysées when Greg LeMond famously beat Laurent Fignon to steal the Tour de France on the last day and win it by 8 seconds. Are we going to get the same again? That could be exciting.
Absolutely. And that's because we don't have the traditional, what has become a ceremonial procession for the most part, into Paris on the final day, down the Champs-Élysées to the Arc de Triomphe, because, of course, the Tour is so close to the Paris Olympic Games. So instead, as you've mentioned, Anthony, we've got an individual time trial from Monaco to Nice to finish things up on the final day. How much will that possibly change things?
On that final day, you've got 33.7 kilometres of time trial. It's a long way. Maybe it won't shake up the first and second because that might be decided by then. But if there's a minute between each rider, then we've got a big battle on our hands on the final day. But it'll certainly shape the top 6. You'll see some movement, no doubt, on that final day. But I'm sure that the Tour de France organisers, so the race directors, Christian Prudhomme and Thierry Gouvenou, I'm sure that they're thinking, come on, let's have 1 minute between 2 riders, final day, big battle. Everybody's on the edge of their seats. Everybody wants to know who's going to win. And I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I think we all do. I think that would be an exciting way to finish the Tour. At the start, though, for the first time, we begin in Italy, marking 100 years since Ottavio Botticcia became the first Italian winner of this race. How will that change things, starting in Italy? Or are these cyclists now just used to sort of going where they're told?
That's very true. But let's remember that Italy is passionate about bike racing. The Giro d'Italia is steeped in the history of the Italian people for all sorts of reasons. And it's interesting that I was at the Giro d'Italia in May, and I didn't think the Tour de France would have much impact in Italy, but it's really captured the imagination of the Italian people. And so many people are saying it's amazing that the Tour de France is here and that we want to be part of it. I think the crowds are going to be huge. I think the impact of the race is going to be pretty special because, as I mentioned before, the early stages of this race in Italy are incredibly hard. You've got day 2, which is around Bologna, and you've got a famous climb of San Luca, which is a really tough climb. And also on that day, a climb that Julien Alaphilippe famously won the World Championships on in 2020. Everyone knows those roads. They know how tricky they are. They know that if you're a race favourite, you need to be at the front that day. So I think they'll really shape what's going to be quite a dynamic race this year in the Tour. But I think we're going to see huge, huge crowds.
How important, Anthony, to success on the Tour de France is staying out of trouble and avoiding potential crashes?
You have to have your team around about you all the time in the Tour de France. They've got to keep you out of trouble on tricky days like day 2 in the Tour. You need to be at the front. But the problem in the Tour de France is that you've got all of these teams, 22 teams, 176 riders, with their sports directors in their ear, all telling them, be near the front. So it's always very, very tricky as far as riders coming to the front and this whole battle for position. But the teams of Tadej, of Jonas, of Primož Roglič, of Remco Evenepoel, they need to be right on their game on day 1 of this Tour de France. Keep them at the front, keep them out of trouble. Don't get involved in crashes because we want to see the battle in the 3rd week of those big name riders. We don't want to lose a big favourite earlier on in the Tour.
Just want to touch on Sir Mark Cavendish, the first ever knight to race the Grand Tour, his 15th and final tour. It's been confirmed that he will definitely participate. Has he got one last stage win left in him?
What a year this would be if Mark Cavendish could win race number 35, stage win 35 in the Tour de France. It would cap everything off for Mark Cavendish. Last year, of course, he ended up on the deck in a massive crash. He was taken out of the Tour de France. We had that image of him sitting in the back of a van, dream over, race over, Tour de France career finished. But he just couldn't let it go, could he? He had to come back. So Cavendish is on the start line. They've built a new lead-out train round about him. He's up against some of the fastest sprinters in the world, Jasper Philipsen, Dylan Groenewegen, Fernando Gaviria, Sam Bennett. All of them would say we'd love to see Cav win stage number 35, but not as far as I'm concerned because I'm going to beat him. As long as I win some stages, I'm fine. Can he do it? I really do think Cavendish can win stage 35. And what a legendary win it would be. He's just been knighted, actually, in the UK, so he's now Sir Mark Cavendish. So he might as well arise in the Tour de France.
I love that. All right, Anthony, your analysis has been incisive, spot on, but I'm going to need you to give us a pick now. Who is your pick to win the Tour de France 2024?
It's very easy, though, isn't it, to pick Tadej Pogačar, but I don't think you can look past him. I think Tadej Pogačar this year has got everything right, the team right, the preparation right. The Giro was incredible. I'd love him to win the Giro d'Italia and the Tour de France in the same year, because then he could go on and win the World Championships. And the last person to do that was Stephen Roach, whose son is sitting alongside me in the commentary booth.
Amazing. Anthony, it's been so good to get your preview of what is an iconic sporting event and one which is watched the world over, including here in New Zealand. Really appreciate you taking the time. Have a great month ahead. And again, thanks for joining us across New Zealand.
Thanks very much for taking the time and enjoy the Tour de France because this year is going to be pretty special. Thank you.
No, thank you, Anthony. Anthony McCrossan there, tour commentator for the Tour de France, which is underway in Italy tonight, just on 10 o'clock New Zealand time. They'll get underway. We'll follow it right through the next month or so and check in with all of the updates you'll need to stay across the Tour de France. Coming up, 2:45, News Talk ZB.
Getting the behind-the-scenes intel live from the first All Blacks camp of 2024. It's Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. News Talk ZB.
12 away from 3, not just getting the insight today, but across the week when the All Blacks have been here. They had their season launch on Wednesday, and a couple of players, in fact all of them, were floating around, so I sidled up and had a quick chat to Beauden Barrett.
Weekend Sport.
Well, here we are at the start of a new All Black season. Beauden, you still get the excitement, do you, as you start to think about Test rugby?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a feeling that never gets old, and there's a certain significance about this one. Obviously, many changes. The bros named as captains and vice captains, and yeah, the start of a new cycle really. So coming back from Japan, many factors. So yeah, just super grateful and proud and excited.
How do you reflect on your time in Japan?
It was enjoyable, yeah, and really refreshing for my family. We really had a good chance to breathe and take our time with things and enjoy each other's company and just really, enjoy the girls growing up very quickly. Too quickly.
That happens, mate, I can tell you from experience. In terms of the rugby you played, you're happy with the standard and you can come back and be ready to go into an All Black scenario?
Yeah, it is what it is. The standard up there is certainly growing and it impressed me, to be fair. There has been a bit of time between games other than a game of club rugby, but I hope to be able to get enough from training, creating the intensity, the environment here to prepare us as best as we can. We've got a test match next week. I know we have a good hit out on Saturday, but 10 days.
What jersey are we looking at here, mate?
That black one with a white collar on. Looks good, doesn't it?
It does. If you turn around, though, what's the number on there?
I don't know what number's on. I think it's a blank one.
You happy 10, happy 15, happy where you need it?
We haven't had those conversations. Obviously happy to be here. Look, I've loved playing with D-Mac and Stevie in the past. The coaches have had plenty of time and will probably continue to weigh that up, but we'll see.
And just on your brothers, obviously, All Blacks captain is no small thing. You look across and see, your brother Scott with that responsibility. How does that make you feel as his brother?
Yeah, super proud. Just naturally feel like you want to help him, so that's what I'll be doing. And it was no different to previous years with me, my relationship with Sammy Kane, Artie, when he's had that opportunity in the past. So it's no different, but it kind of is a little bit. You've got that real deep care.
Yeah,
it's your actual brother who's the captain, so yeah, just super proud.
That is Beauden Barrett speaking at the All Blacks season launch on Wednesday. The All Blacks here at NZCIS in Upper Hutt until Tuesday. They'll fly to Dunedin on Tuesday night. First test of 2024, first test of Razor's tenure is next Saturday night, a week tonight at Forsyth Bar Stadium in Dunedin. We will bring you weekend sport from the venue next Saturday, midday to 3, and our build-up starts from 6. And then our commentary team takes over around 10 to 7 for kickoff at 7:05. All of it broadcast live here on News Talk ZB. And right across the test season, we have every All Blacks test live for you. 2:30 to 3, News Talk ZB.
In camp with the All Blacks as they prepare for the season. It's Weekend Sport with Jason Pine and GJ Gardner-Holmes, New Zealand's most trusted home builder. Only on your home of sport. News Talk ZB.
It is 2:55 or thereabouts, and that is us for Weekend Sport for today. It has been so good to come to you from NZCIS, where between 1 and 2, having Razor Robertson here answering your questions, answering some of my questions, giving a bit of an outline of his vision for what lies ahead. I've just found it extremely instructive. Entertaining, educational. Thank you for taking the time to get in touch and ask Razor your question if that's what you decided to do. We'll hopefully get the opportunity to do that again at some stage during the test season, either with Razor or hopefully with him, and maybe with a player or two as well. We'll keep you posted on all developments regarding that. Look, a quick look ahead to tomorrow's show on Weekend Sport. Back into the studio, but a couple of cracking guests. Hayden Wild is with us as he targets a podium finish at the upcoming Paris Olympic Games. And as we travel the road to Paris, the latest guest, as we look back to fantastic moments from Olympic Games past is shooter Natalie Rooney, who achieved our highest ever finish in Olympic shooting when she won silver in the trap in Rio in 2016. That and lots more. Huge thanks to Mark Kelly for producing the show. You get the exit song today, Mark. What are you gone with?
Oh, same as last time, Pine Man. That famous Warriors anthem from 2001, sung by Lappy Mariner, whose son, Dean Mariner, will be wearing the number 5 jersey for the Brisbane Broncos tonight. Special night, Heritage Night, special jersey. Old boys there parading at halftime, keeping the faith. Go the Warriors.
Go the Wars. You get along there, Mark. Tell us all about it tomorrow, and you can tell us about it as well. We'll wrap the Warriors tomorrow on the show. That's Weekend Sport for today. See you midday tomorrow.
Warriors. Just a matter of faith. It's just a matter of faith.
For more from Weekend Sport with Jason Pine, listen live to News Talk ZB weekends from midday or follow the podcast on iHeartRadio.